earlier you start to save, the less money you need to put away.
Yeah, experts say you should never cash in your pension to pay off debt.
Well, who better to discuss this now than with the host of Money Matters, that's Maya Fisher-French, who's in our Cape Town studio for us. Morning, Maya, and thanks for giving us your time on a Tuesday morning after this.
Yeah, so Maya, does it make sense to cash in your pension
Good morning.
of 100,000 Rand to pay off debt? Sorry, we have a little bit of a delay, just to alert our viewers as we're talking to in our studios in Cape Town. Yeah, we're just talking about pension. You know, do you want to cash it in, given that the debt interest is at 20% versus 10% investment return?
I think you've got to take a step back and understand what money does over time. And, you know, when you're just simply comparing two interest rates, 10% versus 20%, what you're not taking into account is this massive compounding impact. And when we talk about compounding, where it gets so powerful, it's not in the first 5 years, it's actually in the sort of the 20th year. So say, for example, your 100,000, if you invested it at 10% per annum, it would actually double about every 7.2 years. But what does double mean? Double means goes from 100,000 to 200,000. But then the 200,000 goes to 400,000. 400,000 goes to 800,000. So do you understand that that's not just about 100,000 incrementals? We're actually now jumping by 800,000 now to 1.6 million. And what I've just described actually is up to 28 years. So your 100 million starts to really, really, really work for you in the last sort of 20 years. And that's where it's very critical not to cash in and to leave it for the long term. That's why we say the longer you invest for, the less you have to invest, because you're allowing that money to get the real power of compounding towards the sort of last few years of your retirement. So if you had to take 100,000 Rand and you cashed it out at the age of 30 and you're going to settle all your debts, take that 100,000 debt and imagine that if you paid it off over 5 years, without cashing in the pension. So you left your pension there and you said, okay, I can pay this off over the next 5 years. Yes, I will spend about 60,000 Rand in interest on that, repaying it. But that 60,000 Rand of interest, but that 100,000 Rand, remember, left to compound in maybe my last 20 year, at year 15 or year 20, is actually making me 400,000 Rand in terms of growth. So I think that's quite the key to understand the difference. It's very, very different if you had 100,000 Rand sitting in a fixed account and you know it wasn't part of your long-term pension. Well, then yes, it makes sense to settle your debts with that rather than earning a low interest rate in a bank account. But I think when it comes to your retirement funds, you have to see that the only way you're going to be able to retire, or the real power, really comes with that compounding, which is a time-based thing.
Now, tax-wise, of course, when you cash in a pension, you also suffer higher taxes than compared when you're going to get your retirement later on. There's some benefits there.
Absolutely, and that's another amazing thing. You know, I actually had a reader writing in. He had about just over R1 million, and he wanted to cash it in before retirement. He wanted to at the age of 50, I think, or so. And the impact of those taxes are absolutely massive. And when I showed him the tax he'd land up paying, he thought, oh, no, maybe this is not such a good idea. And I think that is a very, very important part. There's not only tax that you will pay on that 100,000, but you will also not be able to, when it comes to getting your tax-free portion on retirement, you're allowed to take up to 500,000. That's actually deducted off that 500,000 as well, the full 100,000. So you've got a lot of implications if you take your pension fund out. And of course, have you changed your behavior at all? Because that's the other thing. I have an issue with this kind of lump sum settle my debt. You're not changing your behavior. You're not learning to live on a budget. You're not learning to meet repayments. You're actually just trying to solve your problems with these one-off lump sums. And is anything going to change? And generally speaking, I find that when someone does that, when somebody takes a lump sum and settles their debt, within a couple of years, they're actually back at the same level of debt and haven't really learned anything from it.
Well, it's a completely different story than if you have, say, for example, 100,000 Rand sitting in cash somewhere, if you're lucky enough, and not for your long-term retirement there, but for those purposes. So help us understand how this turns out differently if that were your circumstances.
Yes, so I think that's key is that we're talking about pension fund. We're saying this is money that I need for my long term. But say, for example, you got a bonus, or you had some other money available, and you were sitting with quite a lot of expensive debt, then yes, it can make a lot of sense to settle that debt, because in fact I've just, if you read City Press on Sunday, I actually answer this exact question, because I had a reader who said, I've got a debt, a consolidated debt, she consolidated all her debt into a single loan, but she happened to have 100,000 rand sitting in cash, and what she wanted to do, which was quite interesting, is she wanted to invest that, take the interest from it, that she's earning from the fixed deposit, and help that to pay the monthly debt installments. And I said, actually, that makes no sense whatsoever. If you took the money and you actually put it into the debt, into repaying that loan, it was a massive effect. I think it brought down her debt repayments by about 2,000 rand a month. And she would never be earning that in interest in a fixed deposit. So it is very important to understand the difference between long-term money and sort of short-term money.
Thank you very much, Maya Fish-French. We'll be back next week. Thank you very much for this regular slot. We're going to be bringing our viewers here on Morning News Today every Tuesday.